recording. Beautiful. Okay. So since we have about 63 people and it's 4 minutes after the hour, I'm going to get started. Thank you everyone for joining. Happy Friday morning and happy Easter. Thank you for giving me your time and joining this conversation that we have today. This is the third conversation I have for Chief. Feel free to leave comments, send me a message, email me. All my informations are there. You can communicate with me on the social media. And like I said, I'll do my best to post a link to the recording and also a survey link. I would really appreciate if you communicate with me and share your feedback. With that, we get started. Today, we're going to talk about human intelligence leadership. What does it mean to be a leader for right now and the future? You know, metaphorically speaking, what can we do and how we can change to be more impactful as leaders and lead the company and organizations in a way that we can survive and thrive. To me, it's deploying our human intelligence. And I call it human intelligence because I felt like the emotional intelligence perhaps has been overused. And I want to bring the humanity to this talk and say that this is really what we have. This is our intelligence that separates us from the other organisms or any life, molecule on the planet, so we can actually tap into it and make the best out of it. And then how we can build a psychologically safe culture, environment, and organization. Because at the end of the day, we all thrive when we feel safe and when we feel included, and we can then contribute. Make sure we are on good. I'm gonna make sure everybody is on mute. Doesn't look like everybody is on mute. I'm gonna try one more time. Mute everyone. So with that, now the chat is open. On the scale of 1 to 10, how would you score yourself in emotional intelligence? If you like to share, put it in the chat box and think about it, reflect, and see how you see yourself. Great numbers. Well, we are Chief. We have high numbers. But again, it's our own perception. It may be higher than what you think, or maybe lower than what you think. Once we go through this, maybe we get a better understanding where we are. Thank you. I keep reading the chat. We are in an inflection point. And I think this is what happened, particularly after the COVID pandemic. When we get into an inflection point, what is presented to us, it's up on us what to do with it. If you adopt it, you can go through an exponential growth. And if you don't, it can become a catastrophic decline. It is my sincere belief that inflection point right now for us is evolution and innovation. And that's evolution and innovation in all aspects of our work and life. And what does that mean? To evolve, to grow, to look outside the box, to rethink the routine, to become a better version of ourselves and evolve as a leader. Not only deploy your domain intelligence and domain skill, but also bring your human skills, because that's what the industries and organizations want from us. That's what people that are joining the companies want from us. And that's why we are facing the great resignations, because people, they do not feel that they're inspired or they're trusting their leaders. So for us, the chiefs, the leaders, we need to change our leadership style. And that's deploying our emotional intelligence. That's how we can actually create an agile culture and bring even further innovation. A little bit about me. I am Bahar Sadarati, a board certified internist. I am currently a medical director working for Humana, which is a Fortune 50 company. I also do consulting and leadership development outside my, daily job. I'm also illustrative storyteller. So what you see, they are all my creations. I am a physician, went through a journey in my life. I learned a lot from my own experiences. And I have been thinking about how I can be a better version of myself and how I can grow. And that only happened when I let go of a lot of things, let go of most of my perfectionism, not all of it, and step out of my comfort zone. In the past few years, I've been really taking a deeper dive into leadership development and human intelligence. I'm also certified for psychological safety and organizational leadership, and did a course with Berkeley on emotional intelligence and empathy. These are the sources. I thought I would put the sources right in the front. What you see or hear, some are my thoughts, but I think it's an infusion of great leaders, great thought leaders, people that I sincerely believe and I learned a lot from. And I have infused some of my ideas and I've gathered them together here for you. So it's like I am the DJ and these are the songs. So what's the difference between emotional intelligence and our intelligent quotient? So emotional quotient versus your intelligent or intellectual quotient. The IQ, as you see, it's not expanding much. You're born with a certain amount of IQ. When your brain is fully developed, which is around age 20, 25, the IQ is not going to get bigger or expand. It's fixed. If we are not going to have any degenerative disease or Alzheimer or dementia, by the time that we leave this world, the IQ is going to be the same. However, your emotional intelligence is very expandable. So don't come and tell me that you don't have an emotional intelligence. We all have it. We may have a little bit of it or more of it, and that really goes back to our life experiences. The type of parenting we receive. As a child, what kind of an environment we were growing in, and what experiences we have had. That is shaping our emotional intelligence. But guess what? It's expandable, it's stretchable, and it can even create a ripple effect. So there is like unlimited opportunity for us to expand and stretch it. So your intellectual quotient or your IQ is pretty rigid, but your EQ is pretty flexible. Now, our traditional examinations, education, interview, unfortunately is mostly focused on the IQ. And that's why we end up having the person with a magnificent, flawless resume, but they come to our organization and they cannot lead. They fail to engage, to inspire, to influence, to build trust, create a team, and bring results, because one cannot really create results. You can bring the metrics, but it's not sustainable. You really need to create that cohesiveness to become the glue and bring everyone together and give them the purpose. That is the job of the leader that is highly emotionally intelligent. Harvard Business Review did the research and they saw that those leaders with a higher emotional intelligence, they had significant higher track record and success. But we all have it. What is emotional intelligence? It's an art of reflection before reaction. So when I get a signal, immediately I want to react. I recognize and I want to react. But when you deploy your emotional intelligence, you're going to regulate it and react. Because the reaction is your primal instinct. The regulation is not. You need to learn how to push it back to the regulation and then react. And that's what happens. So we have two brains. We have a primal brain, it's called limbic system. We have two little tiny amygdala the size of almond. They regulate our emotion. Your entire emotion is operated with two almonds. They are in the primal brain, which means variation designed to survive. So it's fear, flight, and freeze. But we as human beings, we have an intellectual brain, which is a prefrontal cortex. And that's where the regulation, thoughts, and logic happens. Now, if we learn how to detour that signal from our emotional brain, which immediately goes there, move it to our intellectual brain, process it, and then regulate the response, that's cultivating your emotional intelligence. You're putting a layer of intelligence on your emotion. And as you do this over and over and over, mostly is with awareness, mindfulness, understanding who you are, where you are, and you practice this, you actually develop new neural pathways. So after a while, it can actually happen more on its own and automated. And that's what I call the detour of the amygdala. What happens with the amygdala that is going to help us to survive? That's called amygdala hijack. And then by cultivating emotional intelligence and detouring and building those neural pathways, we are going to be detouring it. Your default operating system is your emotional brain. We all born with it. But an upgraded version is our intellectual brain. Don't we all want to upgrade our operating system? Daniel Goleman, about 25 years ago, wrote a book, Emotional Intelligence. And he has divided emotional intelligence to two main domains, the self-mastery and the social mastery. Self-mastery is really understand who you are, feel your emotion, get in touch with your emotion, be authentic, bring your authentic self to work, emotional presence, emotional agility, understand what the feeling is, name the feelings. Self-regulation, emotional self-control. To understand how we are going to be controlling. Now we know what the emotion is, how we're going to regulate it. It helps us to be adaptable because we know how to react and regulate. And ironically, gives us a positive outlook. The social awareness is understanding the environment. So that's empathy, understanding the other person's perspective and feeling. But I'm going to take it to the next level, is organizational awareness. Because in the organization, you understand what's going on, how the culture is changing, what's the need for tomorrow, understanding things that are changing the behavior, the non-verbals in your little tiny team or bigger team and where you are, you can understand things because that's your social awareness. You will see the perspectives. And lastly is regulation of the relationship. And that's how leaders are inspirational, motivational. They can influence, they can manage teams, build a trust, conflict management, having those crucial conversations. That's the skill set we want, someone who knows, regulates, connects, and builds. So what is the leadership for tomorrow? If you remember Indra Nooyi, she created performance with purpose, PWP. The leadership for tomorrow, if you want to be in an organization in an enterprise level, and now most of them are global, like look at Google, Facebook, Amazon, PepsiCo, global, you need not only performance, but also a purpose and partnership. You want the metrics, you want the results, that's performance, but you're not going to sustain it if you're not creating the purpose. Metrics are here, but how we can continue or improve and go to the next level, that's the purpose. but because we are companies that we are not isolated, we are working with a lot of other companies, we are working with the community, we're working with the people, client, customers. You need to understand how to build that partnership. That is just the emotionally intelligent leader capacity. People that they don't have the emotional intelligence, they're not going to be able to do that. We saw that, the domains of emotional intelligence. So with that, I created COPE. I heard myself repeating myself a lot of times about 4 certain things. So I developed my own platform, which I call it COPE. COPE, the human intelligence, which is courage, optimism, patience, and empathy. So what is courage? The bravery of showing up, to be yourself, to let people know who you are, to accept the weaknesses, the flaws, to show up, to go outside the comfort zone, to say you made a mistake, accountability, to come and say, you know, I have flaws, I'm a leader, people are looking at you, and when you come and you say, you know, I had a bad day, that is powerful. It gives permission to others that they can say the same thing, they can be human, be vulnerable. When you're courageous, you can be adaptable because you're not scared of taking the risk and see what happens. You can deal with those ambiguities. You can deal with those uncertainties. And that's why you can be adaptable, agile, and innovative, because you can take that risk. And then vulnerability becomes an issue because people become very curious, or rather uncomfortable, when I tell them you have to cultivate the vulnerability. Well, you want change, innovation, and creativity for your organization. That is vulnerability. How can you make the change or innovate or create? It's a vulnerable moment. I want to draw with watercolor. That's really vulnerable because I can never get what I want. The watercolor is very fluid and it's very hard to control it. When I create these images, I start from somewhere, I end somewhere else. It's the vulnerability of unknown, what happens, the creativity, going outside the box, be innovative, try and fail to make the change. These are all vulnerable moments. So yes, we do need vulnerable leaders. We need to cultivate it. Next is optimism, believing in the possibilities, having the abundance mindset over the scarcity. Okay, one opportunity is gone, but there are unlimited opportunities for us. You just need to open your eyes and have that optimism and open those doors that they are closed. When you don't do that, when you don't think that they exist, you really don't believe in your own abilities. So at its core, having that optimism and believing in possibilities is believing in your own abilities, that you can open those opportunities for yourself. It's not going to happen immediately, but it will. This scarcity mindset, that media, that social media has been really infused in all of our thoughts, that if an opportunity that I was after or something that I was after I didn't achieve, is the end of the world. Who knows? Maybe there is a better opportunity for us and we're learning from it. But you have to believe in yourself. When you are optimistic, you're open-minded, you look at people differently, you can be more inclusive, and obviously adaptability needs that optimism. How can you go through the change without having that positive outlook and generosity? To build trust, which is the key component of leadership, you need to give before you take. And if you're not optimistic, you can't. You need to believe in the goodness of the people, to give before you take, to build that trust, to build a team, to be inclusive. You need that positive outlook. This is just illustrating what is an abundance mindset. We are here in the gray zone, but there are all limited opportunities. We just need to open our eyes and reach. Yeah, there are different sizes, different shapes, different time zones, different stages of our life. But the world, our life, the universe is not so limited. There are so many unlimited opportunities. And I will even go to that zone of thinking this is the end of the world. So don't think that I don't go there. I'll go there. That's why I know it. I'll go there. The darkness comes. I feel like I lost it. I lose my hope. But then I try to build it again. And imagine that happens for your team. People that they are your direct report. That's how you can infuse the purpose. You need to bring that optimism, that bright ray of sunshine. That's how you can create the purpose. And patience. Patience is not accepting a substandard. Patience is not accepting wrong. Patience is not accepting unethical things. Patience is a delayed gratification. Patience is trusting the hard process. Patience is being adaptable because you have to wait. If you don't trust the ambiguity, if you don't trust that difficult unknown of uncertainty, you cannot go through it. How you can lead an organization through a change. You've got to have that patience. If you don't cultivate it, how can you bring it to your team? And I have news for you. That would lead to an exponential growth. I told you that I walked outside the comfort zone to an unknown territory. And I endured a lot of hardship. But I feel I learned so much from those experiences, and it's because of those experiences that I'm here. And I may wanted to go to point B from point A, but guess what? I landed in point C, and it's even better. How to cultivate patience? That's the question I get all the time, because it's very difficult. Trust the process. That's what I keep telling myself. Patience is trusting the hard process. And it's very difficult because we are not wired that way. But how can you do that? You can trust the hard process when you have a bigger purpose. And you have to be mindful of celebrating all those small progresses. So there are like different components to it. Celebrate the progress for the bigger purpose while you're trusting the hard process. We talk about growth mindset all the time. We are going to have a growth mindset in our company. Let's have a growth mindset. But well, if you want to bring a real growth mindset to your company and organization, you really need to cultivate courage, because growth needs risk. You need to take the risk. Patience, persist, have the resilience, trust the hard process, and go through it despite the setbacks. And optimism, to have that open-mindedness and believe in the possibilities to lead the organization. It's not only you, it's entire people that are looking at you. So if you just want to come and say, let's have a growth mindset, but if you're not patient or courageous or optimistic, how can you do that? How can you even ignite that? So you really need to cultivate it. You need to show that you are patient. You need to show that it is okay to be patient while we have a purpose, while we're celebrating the progresses. But we got to trust it. Not every failure is at the end of the world. So you have to really trust that hard process. And perhaps that's the missing part that we have when we want to go through this growth change, because courage perhaps is more understandable for ambitious leaders. Optimism, that's also a challenge, and patience is very challenging to really go beyond that instant gratification, which is our instant instinct. That's difficult. That's why we need to keep building it. And last part of my code is empathy. Empathy over sympathy. Sympathy is like, oh, you feel bad? I'm sorry. It says, you feel bad, but I'm not feeling bad and I'm not with you, but I feel sorry for you. It's pity. Empathy is I feel your feeling. I am with you. I'm not offering any advice. I'm not offering any solution. I'm not going to step on the preach or teacher or lecture zone, which is my default, by the way. I'm just going to sit with it with you and understand your feeling without having any judgment. Understand your perspective. Don't jump into conclusion. Don't come up with advice. A direct report comes and gives you an idea. Have empathy, have patience, listen, lean in, stay a little curious, a little longer. That's how you can create that belonging culture. That's how you are building a psychologically safe environment, because they feel safe to come and open up. And we will explore the psychological safety a lot deeper. So speaking of belonging, belonging is the combination of diversity and inclusion. You're opening the seat at the table. Fantastic, that's diversity. But doesn't mean anything if you're not amplifying my voice. I don't feel I belong. I come and just fill a seat. If you want to really create a belonging culture, not only you have to open the seat for me, you have to amplify my voice, my unique voice. That's belonging. But how can we do that? By building a psychologically safe organization and culture. When there is no psychological safety, we don't admit to our mistakes. I don't a lot of time because I don't feel safe. By the way, I'm not perfect either. So although I talk about this, every time I talk about this, I see that where are the areas that I'm failing every day. But again, I'm learning. Blaming others. Because it's hard to admit. You're scared of the judgment. It's not a safe zone. And you're not going to share any views, because what if they are not going to accept it, or they're going to be just brushing it off, or you feel marginalized, or you feel not included, or you feel that you are shamed or laughed at. You will be ridiculed. And you might say, I would never do that to my team. Yes, you don't. But there are so many nonverbals that we do, and that just removes the psychological safety. I'll give you an example. So my boss, when he talks, he says, let's say he wants to teach us psychological danger. So psychological danger is fear of admitting mistakes, right? And then it's like blaming others, right? And then less likely to share views, right? That right at the end of the sentence means that you're supposed to know. So don't come back with another curiosity and a question and ask me, what did I mean by blaming others? He doesn't know that he does it, right? But that right at the end of the sentence just removes that safe zone that you can come and ask questions, because it has this feeling or message at the end of it that you should know. So there are so many unintentional non-verbals that we do, really unintentional, that removes the psychological safety. How can you react and cultivate it? That people around you, people that they report to you, feel safe. And when they feel safe, they admit to their mistakes. Because sometimes even they may feel that they will be celebrated, that they made a mistake. They tried, they gave it a shot. They were courageous. and they fail, we're going to celebrate their courage and we're going to learn from the failure because there is always a lesson there. I walked away from 18 years of marriage and from my 2 businesses and my whole identity because I wasn't feeling safe. So psychological safety is not really only in the organization. When you don't feel your voice is not heard, when you don't feel that you can share yourself and open up, when you don't feel that you can be yourself, that's a lack of psychological safety. But then when you create a psychologically safe environment, people admit to their mistakes, they learn from their failures, and they share ideas because they know it's welcome. So speaking of failure and my story, well, I learned so much from that failure, if we're going to call it a failure even. It was 18 years of experience. Hard. There's always the heartache. That's why we're going to trust the hardship. That's why we have to have the patience. And psychological safety is not the shield from the accountability. That you make the mistake, you need to come and admit to it. You can't just say, oh, we are in a very safe culture, so we can do whatever. It's not being super nice or cuddly. It's actually a kind candor. It's not an unearned autonomy. You're giving the permission and respect, but it's not an unearned autonomy. You need to earn it. But do you approach a chronic blamer? They tend to be consumed by narcissists. Why would you blame? Because you don't want to be an accountable person. One, you don't want to be an accountable person because you are, that's my thought. Whenever I don't want to be accountable, I feel admitting to any flaws, weakness, or mistake is going to be bad for me, right? That's why I don't want to be accountable. It's deeper. It's not about your judgment only. It's a lot deeper that I am associating my value, my truth, my self-worth with what I create or present or I do or I say, or what kind of false image that I have created. So once you take that from me, I'm nothing. And that's the narcissist. A narcissist does not like him or herself. And they only cover themselves and shield themselves with all those achievements, with whatever it is. It's charisma, their job, whatever it is. They don't feel valued or worth inside. And that's why we become so scared of admitting to those mistakes. It's okay to be scared. I'm a human, you're a human, we all feel scared. But when that becomes a constant routine, when you feel like there is a fear, an extreme fear and terror associated with, I'm not good enough, I'm not good at all I have is all these armors and I shield that I have, that's difficult to really take any responsibility and be accountable for any flaws. And we're not just talking about flaws or mistakes at work, we're talking about anything. Like a narcissist may even have a hard time and say, I don't sleep well. A narcissist may have a hard time and say, I have pains, I have fears. So if you associate your own self and your own worth with those things, it's going to be very difficult to admit to those weaknesses. We can talk more. I hope I will have time and then we can chat a little bit more about it. So how do you build psychological safety? How do you build psychological safety? Tell me, how do you think you should make it? What's the easiest way to do that? Or how did you do it? Or how your boss did it? How your leader did it? If you feel you're in a psychologically safe culture through trusted relationship, listening, so empathy, opening up, building the trust, how can we become the leaders that can ignite a psychologically safe culture? There are three components, in my opinion, for building a psychologically safe environment. First is transparency, which is being vulnerable. Self-love is being vulnerable. Transparent communication. So you need to be transparent, be vulnerable, be authentic. When you do that, people feel like it is safe to be human. And then when that happens, you need to also be very curious to pick on any action, anything that happens, and learn how to respond. Be curious how to talk, how to finish your sentences. And then when the question or comment or anything comes your way, if someone opens up, someone is taking the risk and feels that it's safe, be empathic and reward that. So for building a psychologically safe culture, the person who holds the position of power really drives this. Modeling the vulnerability and rewarding the vulnerability. You come as my boss and you show up as a person, as a human. You bring your vulnerable self. You share stories. You tell me you're human. You tell me you have fear, you have scares. You tell me you failed. You tell me a story that it makes me feel you're actually opening up and you are transparent. You're vulnerable. That gives me permission to try to be vulnerable. And it's a game changer how you react to it. Are you rewarding my vulnerability with the correct reaction or no? And rewarding vulnerability doesn't mean don't do anything. That is not rewarding. Rewarding, it's literally acknowledging, be empathic. If I make myself vulnerable and you don't do anything, I don't feel that I was judged or marginalized or ridiculed, but you didn't do anything. I feel so excluded. I feel so unseen and unheard. The person who holds a position of power sets the tone. Psychological safety is a combination of permission and respect that you keep giving, and you have to give that in a very balanced fashion. You give the permission to people to come and express their unique voice, to be included. You give them permission to be who they are. And you also give them the respect to express their opinion, to cultivate who they are and respect that unique voice, that unique identity, that unique curiosity, that unique contribution. You respect them when they come and they ask you a question or challenge your status quo. So you have to give both of them, because if you don't give both of them, if you just give the respect and no permission, that's paternalism. And if you just give permission and no respect, no rewarding, no acknowledging, no act that the person feels they are seen or heard or they have been included, their voice is included, they have permission, but they don't get that respect, it's exploitation. So you have to balance it. Stage 1. Psychological safety starts from inclusion safety. Just have the right to be who you are, to bring who you are. You're gender orientation, your identity, how you dress, how you do your hair, how you talk. Just bring who you are. You're just whole human being. Not your thoughts, not what you say, just who you are. You're accepted as who you are. That's the first stage, inclusion safety. There are things that we do and they're not on purpose, and they can become microaggression and can cause people feel not included. Next is a learner safety. Feeling safe to learn, ask, and be curious. Now that I feel included, if I have a question, I ask because I don't feel I'm going to be blamed or shamed. And then when I feel safe enough, I'm going to start contributing, sharing, talking, giving ideas, because I feel like my thoughts, my ideas, my voice is actually respected. And then if I feel safe enough, I take it to the next level and I start challenging the status quo. And that, my friends, is where we go from inclusion to innovation. You included the person, they went to the inclusion, learner, contribution, safety, and now they are in the challenger safety. They challenge the status quo, we think outside the box. That's when innovation happens. Inclusion is when we have a lot of less, like diminished friction. The social friction is pretty much gone. Everybody is included. But then in the challenger safety, the intellectual friction is actually rewarded. People challenge each other, have crucial conversation, exchange ideas, and that's when the innovation happens. So the organizations that are looking for innovation, if they are not creating a psychologically safe environment, a true psychologically safe and a belonging culture, they are not going to make it to innovation and agile. This is just to show how we can create that belonging culture and how the pieces of diversity, equity, and inclusion, they come together. Diversity is a number, just a variety of size and colors. Equity is giving them the same access, and inclusion is the mindset that they can bond and belong. And that's how we build a belonging culture. The business case. Why do you need this? I've already told you a lot why you need this. Why do you need to create this culture? Because how we can turn into revenue? What's the ROI? Engagement, they're all after engagement. A belonging culture is going to ignite that engagement. That's what we are after. So when you have engaged people with purpose and they belong, they go above and beyond, improve productivity, efficiency, experience. If you're not taking care of your employees, you cannot take care of your customers. A great pipeline for leadership for tomorrow, because now you're going to teach your organization and your successors and your potential future leaders an unparalleled leadership skill, that they can lead the way, create a cultural competency, build the trust, because they are going to expand this. And then that's how we can create a long-term value over just short-term results, because we are creating a legacy. Talent retention, people feel belong and safe, they're not going to leave. You're not going to bleed out your talent to your competitors and go through all the ramifications and hiring and training. Cultural competency. When you have a cultural competency, when you have that culture which is safe and it's a belonging culture, you have less hostility, less burnout, and less liabilities. Those are the headaches of the organizations. At the cost of capital. So it is extremely important to think about how we can keep the best talent, grow the best talent, take them to the next level. and create the results that are sustainable. And because we just reviewed that how psychological safety is going to feed agile, that's how we can create innovation. That's how the accelerated growth happens. Just to show you the difference between deploying just your domain intelligence or a leadership that is deploying your domain intelligence and your human intelligence is a far more impactful and powerful leadership. The courage to show up and embrace our imperfections is really cultivating our uniqueness. So every time that I'm hiding behind the armor of perfectionism, I tell myself, do you want to cultivate your uniqueness, which comes with flaws, mistakes, or not? And that's what I keep telling myself. Now, think, and if you like to share, scale of 1 to 10, how would you score your organization? Being a safe, belonging, psychologically safe organization or culture. So, wow, 1, 4, 6, 3, 9, fantastic. Need to do better. Yeah, we all need to do better. If you'd like to learn more, I can offer a 4-hour workshop and also a 90-minute masterclass like I did today, and kind of a short version of it. That's what I can offer to you and your organization. If you're interested, you can reach out to me. And on closing, recording hopefully will be done correctly. The link I'm going to post on the YouTube, and then I link it on our meetup, and also I leave a survey. Please take moments and answer the survey. And this is my contact, my social media. I'm very available on LinkedIn, my email. Communicate with me, send a message to Chief, ask me questions, tell me what you want to learn more. And if you want to learn more about my offerings, reach out. Thank you for your time. We have 9 minutes, so please come off the mute and talk.
Bahar, this is fantastic, and I'll definitely be reaching out. It's such an important part of the success of an organization, and for the leadership within an organization to develop the emotional intelligence. And the way you've articulated this, it just makes it easy to understand. And I think that a leader at any level could gain from this and understand what it means to be emotionally intelligent and to promote that through the organization.
Thank you. Any other thoughts? Any ideas? And stop the recording.